Entitlement reaches all walks of life, as you'll find out in this episode of Entitled People. Our first one is from Jaded Cloud 243. This happened this morning as I arrived and is still ongoing. UK. Basically, as dialysis patients have minimal immunity, we get free flow tests and are required by the unit to test the night before, and if we test positive, to call the unit. There's no one there at night, but it has an answering machine. I arrive at the same time as R&D, two older patients. We all have masks on, though both of them have their noses uncovered. I hang back as a precaution, but they stand outside talking, so I go in, hit the intercom buzzer to get into the unit proper. They run in behind me to avoid having to intercom themselves. R starts coughing and lowers his mask. "Don't mind me, I caught COVID at weekend." D chimes in that he tested positive last night, but didn't call as he hates talking to machines. Turns out, neither of them did. I tell them to wait there and I'll tell the nurses, knowing that we already have one positive case on unit. Instead, they follow me into the clinic, masks down, and get told by nurses to put them back on. "Why bother? We already have COVID." Nurse puts them on triage room. Turns out with them, out of 12 beds in clinic, 7 have it. Clinic only has 2 isolation rooms. They put screens up around others, but don't have enough. So now 2 in isolation, 1 screened off, and the rest all put on one side of the room. Since then, 2 hours in, they've demanded a second cup of tea. "We're sick after all, so we deserve it." I lost count how many times they've been told to put their masks back on. They're blaming one of the ISO room patients, despite all of them getting it from family members. Told a nurse going through a messy divorce that she deserves to be alone, and whined that they are too hot cause they have a fever. The biggest issue? While of us that tested negative were put on treatment, they left triage to keep coming into the clinic demanding they get out on now. They even wandered over to where we are, coughed and spluttering, so now we all had a PCT test. I have to self-isolate at home till I hear back on the result. The nurse has been told to go home when morning treatment's done. Cleaning team been called in to deep clean the clinic before afternoon treatment starts, and the remaining nurses have been called in to do afternoon shift. 3 of them were on leave. Just needed to vent. Sorry it's so long. To be fair, I think they need to put it on the books, in all law books, that if somebody comes up and they're acting like this and they're coughing on you, you have full-blown right to punch them square in the fucking throat and give them a real reason to cough. This next one is from Fluffy Baby Cow. Want to preface this by saying this is not my story. It is my friend's and she wanted me to share this. She's written this, hence it is in first-person point of view. I was traveling by myself for the first time, and I'm only 18. I booked for the aisle seat specifically because I didn't want to be in the middle of 2 strangers, as that would make me very uncomfortable and conscious. I paid extra for the seat specifically for this reason. When I got to my seat, there was a middle-aged man, I would say around 30 or 40 years old, in my seat. Normally, I'm very socially anxious, and this time even more so as it was my first time alone, but there was no way I was gonna sit in between 2 random strangers. So I did what anybody would do and informed them that this was my seat and showed him my boarding pass. He admitted it wasn't his seat, but that his coworker was on the seat next to him on the next row and he wanted to be with him, and instead offered me his seat, which he said was the window seat. The window seat is my favorite, but cost more. So in my head, I was getting a good deal, so I happily took it. I basically hopped, jumped, and skipped to take the seat and settled down happily. That was until another man, B, came and told me that I was in his seat. So I looked at A, expecting him to pull out his ticket showing that I was in his seat, but instead, this man literally looks at me sheepishly and says that his seat is actually the middle seat and said he hoped I didn't mind sitting in the middle. Not only does this man lie to me about his seat, hoping that the seat was actually empty, but he actually expected me to be okay with sitting in the middle. At this point, I'm raging a little. I might be socially anxious, but I'm not a pushover. I told him no, I only agreed because he said his seat was the window seat and that he needs to move to his seat or I will call the crew to sort this out. At this point, he just kept parroting the words, "My coworker is here, I want to sit next to him, maybe you can be a sweet little girl and sit in the middle just this one time." The moment he said that, I realized I only had to deal with this because I was young and a woman, so now I'm livid and immediately call for the crew after repeatedly saying no, because again, I paid extra for the seat. Even when the crew came to sort it out, he wasn't listening. He kept telling them that there wasn't any issue, and that this was just a small disagreement that could be sorted between us. When I informed them what was happening, and they requested him to move, he just kept saying, "Maybe you can be nice, can you please do me this favor?" And that immediately switched to, "You know you should respect your elders, why do you need the aisle seat? You can easily fit in the middle." Turns out, the other person wasn't even his coworker. He was a random person who had his earphones in, completely unaware of the situation until it was escalated. At this point, I could not believe the entitlement. I told him I paid extra for the seat, and if he wanted the seat, maybe he should have paid the extra fees, and that since he didn't and I did, I was going to sit in the seat I paid for, and he can deal with it. Thankfully, the crew basically forced him out of my seat and into his, with the threat of him being removed from the aircraft. The entire time he kept looking at me saltily and muttering under his breath on how the youth of today are so disrespectful, they should give priority to the older passengers in the man, which I of course ignored. It was even funnier when he wanted the non-veg meal and had to get the veg one, cause I got the last one. He threw a fit about this as well, but I pre-ordered my meal while he didn't, so I was offered it first. At this point, the crew were getting sick of him, and so they told him they could give him an aisle seat in a row that was behind us. He obviously jumped at this opportunity. The crew switched him out for this nice lady. Turns out he got the very last row near the lavatory, which is why the lady was happy to switch in the first place. I love how this person's trying to play the "you should respect your elders" card and things like that. What about respecting youth? You know, you have to give respect to get respect, and if you're expecting that respect without giving it, well, you're definitely fucking entitled like this guy. This next one is by YouTuber and Redditor. So, for a backstory, my neighbor has always been a jerk to us. They've tried to get our dogs to bite them at least 10 times by now, and it has been getting out of control. They've gotten mad over tiny things, such as my dogs laying too close to our fence, which is the neighbor's fence too. Anyways, the reason you folks are reading this right now is to laugh at my mentally insane neighbor, so let's get into it. The cast is me, yours truly, MMMD, my parents, Jay, my uncle, and EM for Entitled Moron. It all started when my dog was attacked by Entitled Moron's pit bull. My uncle nearly had to kill the darn pit bull to get it off my dog. My dog now has to live with 3 legs now, which isn't easy because even though he's had 3 legs for about 3 years, he still struggles to walk or run. This happened when I was 11. Anyways, I will not get into the gruesome details of what happened to my dog and the neighbor's dog, since most people have a weak stomach. Jay told me what happened. He heard the attack start under his window, which then caused him to run to the pit bull to try to keep him from attacking my dog. He mostly succeeded, but my dog left without a leg. A year later, I had my birthday party, a pool party, which my neighbor then proceeded to ruin by cursing out literally the entire party with kids with their ages ranging from 6 to 12. That's right, she swore at literal toddlers. She even called my black friend, who was 8, the word that starts with an N. Yep, I know what you're thinking. She messaged MM on Facebook multiple times, calling her words I do not wish to say here. It's gotten so bad at this point, she's even tried to guilt trip us into moving away by saying that apparently she had to get the nicer dog because of us, and other stuff a wicked witch like her would say. MD has come close to whooping her tail about 23 because she's insulted me a ton after the incident. So who was in the right or wrong here? I'd definitely say it was the lady that was in the wrong because it was clearly her pit bull that started this whole fiasco and she just doesn't want to accept responsibility. Instead, it's your fault. You can't fix this kind of entitlement no matter how hard you try, and I'm glad that your dog survived the attack. And our final one is by Geardesus. I was gifting my friend a nice water bottle among other things. He took it out of the gift bag and used it. I got mad at him and took it from him, cleaned it and put it back into the bag. Though now that he used it, I'll have to get a new one anyway. The very next day, the same bottle out on the counter having been used again. He had the balls to tell me he didn't remember saying it wasn't his to use, even though he would have had to go back into the gift bag to get it back out. He thinks it's perfectly normal to use stuff from a gift bag that's not yours, specifically bottles, because they can be cleaned and reused. After I explained why he can't just take other people's things, especially gifts, he still maintained that he didn't think he was wrong to do it. Well, this entitled asshole was clearly raised that everybody's things are also his things instead of, keep your hands to yourself and don't touch other people's things unless they give you permission. I'm really surprised he made it this far in life so far. Alright, that's enough entitlement for the day. Well, that wraps up this episode of Entitled People. If you liked the video, please drop a like, share my content on all of your social media, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload, and drop a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm and helps new people find my channel. Thanks for watching, thanks to my patrons, have a great day and stay safe out there.